Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
Oregon is going to the Final Four.
The following is a Learfield presentation of the Oregon Sports Network.
And Oregon is going to play in the national championship game.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
Man, it feels great to be a Duck.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
Their competitors, they'll want to put the O on.
Three, got it!
We're going to compete to a standard every day.
The Oregon standard.
Rebound, up and in! 1 point more to go!
The opportunity to play, put Oregon on your chest, should mean a great deal to you.
Unloads on one into left field, back toward the wall. Gone!
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Oregon wins!
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, let's talk Oregon athletics.
Thank you. I'm Joey Mack. Thanks for being inside the Country Financial Studio. We have Jody Sykes, Chief Compliance Officer, coming up. There's always a lot of headlines around NCAA rules and everything else that happens around the NCAA, and Jody Sykes is the walking encyclopedia locally here at Oregon of all of those things. We're going to talk with her. She also is in charge of the Oregon women's golf program. She's the sports liaison for that program. They were just honored this past weekend at Autzen Stadium, got their Pac-12 championship rings. God, that was really cool to see. We're going to talk with Jody about that coming up. And, of course, interviews from after practice today. The Ducks just getting off the practice field ahead of that 1 o'clock kickoff at Martin Stadium. It's going to be televised on Fox. We will have an 11 a.m. pregame show here on the Oregon Sports Network. Assistant coach Matt Powledge will be with us. Defensive lineman Jordan Riley after his first sack as a Duck this past weekend. And Troy Franklin scheduled to be with us on the pregame show, of course, in addition to Dan Lanning. That's from after practice today. Also, fans, a fun note, 8 o'clock kickoff for Stanford at Autzen Stadium a week from now. And the baseball team is going to scrimmage free to the public at PK Park during the tailgate time leading up to that 8 o'clock kickoff. More details are going to be on GoDucks.com. We'll be talking about it. Mark Wasikowski, head coach for the Ducks, he talked about it with the media just a little while ago in his fall media availability as the Ducks get back practicing. We'll tell you all about that coming up on today's show. Your Facebook comments and questions, your YouTube comments and questions, maybe even some Twitter comments and questions. And if you're live with us on an Oregon Sports Network affiliate station and you don't have a way to actively chat, the phone lines are closed, and you're going to have to find me on Twitter, and I'll try to answer your question later. Did I cover all that? How do we do? Ryan Milano's directing today. Scott Phillips is running audio, which means everything's going to fail. And Alex Stimson is here. Alex, what's on the? Can you show what's on the hand today? What are you telling people?
Joey, a little bit embarrassed. It's taken me a while to update. It still says beat BYU, but of course, we did beat BYU. So how do you like that? How do you like that? Please don't be mad.
Speaking of beating BYU and Washington State, Dan Lanning, head coach for the Ducks, he met with the media last night. Let's hear a little bit from the Oregon football head coach, because let's be honest, nobody cares what I think.
All right, go ahead and get started here. Before we really start talking about Washington State, do want to address something that happened in our game this past weekend with BYU. Obviously, like many of you, was really frustrated and disgusted to hear some of the things that were said during the game. Got the opportunity to reach out to Coach, to Kalani. I know our athletic director, Rob, got to reach out to Tom, their AD there at BYU, and express, our frustration and also apologize for the behavior of few that really, puts a cloud over a great group and a really fun situation for our players and our fans on Saturday. So that being said, there's no room for that in our stadium, and anybody that's going to partake in that doesn't need to be in our stadium. So that's been addressed. We're looking forward to getting to play a good Washington State team. These guys have gone and won some tough games and been in some tough battles. Obviously, getting a chance to go play a team like Wisconsin and playing the way they did is really impressive. They won some tough games. I think they do some unique things offensively and defensively. You know, Coach Dicker's done a great job up there of being aggressive on defense and creating some negative plays. They've had some really explosive plays on offense. You know, they have a quarterback that can extend plays and does a good job of getting the ball downfield, but is also dangerous with his legs. So they certainly present some unique challenges. And as we all know, you know, traveling to Pullman, that's a unique environment, a special environment to play games. So I expect them to have a great crowd out there and it to be a good challenge for our players.
Bo's situational splits on 3rd and 7+ and 3rd and 10+ compared to his time previous to here is about as sharp a 180-degree difference as there is. Talked a little bit after the game about stuff that you guys might have identified to help alleviate that. Can you expound on that, Dan, when you see those, like I said, I know it's a small sample, but it's so extreme. Like he went from one of having the tougher stats on those situations to now being among the top 10 in the country. That's about as sharp a difference as it gets.
No, I think it speaks to his growth as a player. I think it also speaks to the plan, you know, for him. And I think we all can agree that being in 3rd and manageable or 4th and manageable is a lot better than being in 3rd and long, you know, situations. So it's us making sure that we stay on, you know, really, you know, in sequence on offense to where we're not taking negative plays. We're not putting ourselves in holes to where you have to, you know, go be in 3rd and 14 or 3rd and 10 situations. But he's done a good job of operating what we've asked him to do.
The play he has where he almost picks up the 3rd down, I should say, in the 4th quarter there, diving for it. Do you want him to slide? Do you have a conversation with that? Do you want to kind of guess, is there a balance between trying to limit his natural aggression as a runner, or kind of what's that dialogue?
I didn't tell him to slide. I mean, I like guys that are winners that want to go get first downs, like Bo wants to get a first down. You obviously want to be smart, and but you're a competitor. You want to go get it first. And certainly at some point I could be sitting up here and I could regret that I said that, but I didn't. You know, you don't tell guys how to compete. And Bo wanted to compete and go get a first down. I'm excited to see it. I remember being a kid watching. You know, I don't like the Broncos. I like the Chiefs, but I remember John Elway fighting for, you know, first downs and like doing the spinning into the end zone, and like you appreciate that to me as a football coach. So I'm glad he's trying to go get a first.
Washington State's defense allows only 12.7 points a game through the first 2. Is there anything your offense needs to focus on specifically in this game, like that you guys need to focus on going into this week?
You know, they bring some unique pressures, some rundown pressures, pass down pressures that can create negative plays. Their D-line's really aggressive. So, again, I think staying on schedule is important for us. We got to find those opportunities to make sure we don't, you know, start off and be sitting there at 2nd and 12, right? You want to try to stay on schedule and instead of being 2nd and 12, be, you know, 2nd and 6 or 1st and 10. And they do a good job of, you know, generating pressure when they can generate pressure. And then when they can't, they do a good job of playing on the perimeter. So, you know, they've done a great job on defense of, you know, staying on task. So that's impressive by them.
Second-ranked opponent, Dan, can you just talk about the things that you think the team has grown the most in since that matchup with Georgia, now that you've watched the film against BYU?
I think we're playing a little bit more of a physical brand of football, really on both sides of the balls. We've obviously been able to establish the run and then do a good job tackling on the perimeter the last couple games. That's something that has to continue for us. You know, we've said, you know, for us, it's about chopping wood and carrying water, right? There's work to be done, and if you want results, you got to keep chopping wood and keep carrying water, and you got to do that at practice, right, for that to show up in a game. So that's the last few weeks. Our practices have been really good, and it's shown up and carried over in the game. I think we got to see the same thing this week.
Dan, you're one of just 4 teams that hasn't given up a single sack yet, and you've done that with some reshuffling in your rotations. What do you attribute that stat to?
You know, it's a combination of our guys doing well up front, the ball coming out on time up front. You know, our coaching staff's done a good job as well, but it's also, you know, a tribute to what kind of defenses we've been playing. You know, I think if you watch the game, last game, you're going to see a lot of 3-man rush from BYU. That's easier to protect against and get the ball out than it is when people are bringing 5 or 6. So I'll say this, we don't want to give up sacks, but on the same note, our goal isn't how many sacks we give up a game. Our goal is to win, right? And that can be viewed, you know, a couple different ways. But it's a really good job by, you know, our offensive staff, Coach Clem, and those guys up front. But it's not the only measuring stick for us offensively.
Coach, in the last couple of games, after the last couple of games, you've said that you definitely had some moments that you wanted back, some plays you didn't want to give up. What's your message to the defense heading into conference play, and especially going on the road in a really tough environment to play like Pullman?
Yeah, let's put plays, back to back, together. Let's keep operating, play a complete game. I still think, for us, we haven't played a 4-quarter game in all phases. That's something I want to see from us. But yeah, we want to go out there, compete, and grow. So there's a lot of learning moments from us in this past game against BYU where, to a certain fan or a spectator, it might not look for a moment of growth. For us, there's a lot of things that we can get better at, and we ID'd those today. Our players went out and attacked them today, and I thought we had a really good practice.
You faced the air raid in the SEC with Leach, but Dickert has called this the Cougar raid. It's a more balanced, I guess, approach to that. I think they had a tight end catch a pass for the first time in 11 years. Difference between the traditional air raid and what they're trying to present as the Cougar raid.
Yeah, they are. They're more balanced. It's unique. When I've played teams like this in the past, you kind of carry one defense, and it's what you have to play, the entire week, and it's usually a little bit unique for that. That being said, they still have 11 personnel. They have 12 personnel. Like you said, they use the tight end. So it's more to prepare for. They do a lot more, but they still can create some of those issues that the air raid that can create. So not as much time can be devoted to one thing in practice, and I think that's a challenge. They do a good job of mixing it up, and their tight end certainly has caught a couple passes this year. Does a good job.
With a chance to review the film, Dan, your thoughts on how Triquez, Jaleel, and Dante each played, since they were each picked on at times, each gave up passes from one hash to the opposing out, and what will determine who among them plays more now going forward?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Each one of them had opportunities, and each one, had success and didn't have success. So I think we have to continue to, grow. We're going to play as many players as we can that can play winning football. All three of those guys are very capable of playing winning football and have. It's about developing consistency, there at that position and being able to go make plays when those opportunities come your way. So, again, I think all those guys can play for us and play winning football. We'll play as many guys that can.
Speaking of making plays, I thought Bucky was pretty spectacular on a couple of those runs. When you start seeing that develop out of him, is that something I guess maybe you saw in fall and the running back rotation as a whole, kind of three guys this last week, was that injury related? Is that a condensed in the rotation? Is it going to be week by week? What can you say about that?
It's a combination of who was available in the game for us, and also who's playing well. Yeah, I've seen Bucky run with violence. What I was more excited about when you walk away from that game compared to even the Eastern Washington game is, one of our big goals as an offense was how do we play without the ball? I think the very first play, Chris Hudson gets the ball, but you see Bucky out there blocking his tail off. Troy Franklin had several plays where he's blocking like crazy. Bo's getting out there in front blocking. The way we were blocking and playing without the ball was what was really impressive to me. And I think some of those explosive plays that came on Bucky runs or Noah runs or whoever had the ball at the time, that was credit to what other people around them were doing as well. So that's a benefit. Again, I've been a part of a lot of situations. When I was at Georgia, we're playing for a national championship. We had 5 backs that had close to 50 carries. So you'll play as many guys that can play winning football. And it's nice for us to have, a group right now that can do that.
Hey, Dan, I'm just wondering if there's an update on Stephen Jones and if you guys are hopefully making him back relatively soon.
Yeah, hopeful that we can get him back. I don't know that I have a direct timeline on him right now.
Dan, Luke Combs believed in you guys. What'd you think of that? And when's the concert coming to Autzen Stadium?
I don't know. Yeah, that was, it's always good to have a little fun after a game, but glad he picked us. Good pick.
Looking back at it now, Coach, Bo goes out of the game. You guys are up big, and then he has to come back in and kind of finish the job up. Now that you've kind of reflected on that situation a little bit, what do you think that says about his ability to stay locked in, and what message does that send to the rest of your team?
Yeah, I think all of our players were engaged the entire game. I think we all wanted to play better there going into the fourth quarter, and we're certainly capable of that. But I don't know if there's a certain message that's delivered there other than every one of our guys has to be available and ready the entire game.
Coach, the last couple of games you guys have gotten off to really quick starts. Kind of was mentioned earlier, Wazoo's got a really good defense. What do you think are the keys for your team getting off to that really fast start against a really tough defense?
Preparation, doing it in practice first, lets it carry over to the game. The openers, the plays that we run offensively and defensively early in the game are plays that we've practiced all week. So when you can do those consistently in practice, it'll carry over to the game.
3 games into a season, you can start seeing trends form, and still plenty of time to maybe turn them around. Third down defense for you has been inefficient, last in the country. How can you fix that, and what's made it so hard for this defense to get off the field on third down?
Yeah, I mean, it's something we got to continue to work on. I think week 1 put us it obviously at disadvantage. You look at week 1 because we did really poorly week 1. I think it's gotten better each week, but there's certainly some moments that continue to improve. I'm not looking at the small sample size of 3 games. I'm going to look at, the entirety of the season, but we'll always self-evaluate our growth there and continue to look to improve.
What makes Deion Henley for them just this, like he's leading in virtually every statistic, not just for them, but nationally among sacks. He's forced 2 fumbles, interception. I mean, he's got like a season stat line in 3 games. And this is a transfer who started his career as a receiver. What is it about him that allows him to be this dynamic?
Yeah, athletic ability, motor, versatility. I think you see all that, and they use him in a lot of unique ways, which, obviously that's a benefit for them.
Small sample size, I guess, still. But how do you reflect on your guys' return game? It seems like there's been some good returns, but some up and down plays. I know Chris kind of mismanaged one maybe this last game, but still feeling good about kind of what you got back there.
Yeah, I think we just have to be more consistent, and creating those opportunities in practice. We were able to show, some balls that were mismanaged in practice, and then we were able to show the game film. And guess what? It shows up in both places. So we work it. We have to work it and do it consistently in practice for it to carry over in games. But we have people that are very capable back there to return kicks for us, and we just got to take advantage of our athleticism when we get the chance.
Wazoo, I think, leads the country, or certainly leads the conference in takeaways, but they also give away some. I mean, you can always talk about like ball security and takeaways is key to every game, Dan. But when an opponent has, I think, had multiple takeaways in 13 of their last 16 games, is there any, let's say, extra emphasis, but anything different by way of emphasizing ball security when an opponent is so proficient at it?
Yeah, you want to, takeaways come in bunches usually, right? We talk about games. Generally, they come in bunches, and it's something we certainly emphasize every single week on defense and offense. We did a ball security circuit today on offense, right? It's always going to be, at the forefront for us. But you want to take advantage of opportunities when the ball's in jeopardy. So we try to identify those, and hopefully that's something we can capitalize on this week.
Leduc has started the last 2 games at inside linebacker. Feel like he took a big step against BYU. Can you just maybe evaluate his growth this season through 3 games for you?
Yeah, he's done a good job for us being available. That's a part of it. And, part of that's based on the personnel that BYU's put out there on the field. When we play 12 personnel, we're going to play a little bit bigger at times. Jackson's done a good job of knowing his assignment and being available to help us.
One thing I've heard from fans each of the last couple of weeks is just being impressed with when you identify an area for improvement, it's showing up. Perimeter defense after week 1 looks a lot better week 2. You say last week you'd like to create a few more big plays. You're able to effectively do that. Has any part of you been surprised, impressed, whatever, with how much you've been able to say to your team, we need to get better here, and how quickly they've been able to absorb that and show improvement that way?
I just think it speaks to the character of our team and being able to take constructive criticism. It's such a trait that doesn't exist in youth at times today, where you hear something, and if it doesn't sound like what you want it to sound like, it's not necessarily everybody wants to go work on it. Our guys have been hungry to improve, and if they see something that they can get better at and they can see a visual of why it matters, it usually carries over. And they do a really good job of receiving a message and then trying to detail their work so they can be better at it.
Jumbo package, I wonder if there's a name. Marcus Harper called it the big boy package. I don't know if that's going to stick. And then I guess, why is Josh such a good fit as an extra lineman? And what was the audition process of finding a fullback? Because that's not something Oregon's done in a while.
Yeah, it's something we've carried and worked on. You've seen it for the first time really last week, but it's something that, we've carried and wanted to be able to use. And we liked the way it looked early on when we used it in the game, and it felt like it was something we can lean on, throughout the game. So again, Josh is a guy that's been, he's grown more and more every single week into a role that we feel like we want to be able to make sure we can get him on the field and use him. And that's certainly a place that he can help us there.
DJ Johnson certainly showed up a lot in the box score, Dan, but there were a lot of plays that he helped make that weren't necessarily in the box score. It seemed like he was really all over the field this past week. What was your evaluation, just how he played from what showed up and what showed up more on film maybe at times than statistically?
Yeah, I think DJ's a guy that we can constantly point out defensively for us in our practice film and then on game film of his relentless effort and pursuit of the ball, right? And that carries over. It leads to, like you said, several tackles, but also an impact on a lot of plays within the game. So I know DJ has some plays that he wishes he had back, from that last game where he can grow. Looking for more opportunities for him to do that. But when you play with great effort, it shows up.
I wonder what you made of Brandon Doris' performance. I know PFF graded it out really well. What did you guys see from him?
What PFF grade him as? Yeah, we don't look at the PFF grades, but Dorless played good. He played a good game. He's there's just like I said with DJ, there's some moments where I know that Dorless probably wants to have back that he feels like he can do better, but he's been a guy that's embraced growth, right? And he's been a guy that practices really hard and then plays really well, and that's kind of the way it works. When you practice really hard, you play well, right? And that showed up for him, in the game. So really pleased that he's able to help us out and help out our team.
Dan, can you just talk us through your decision to go for it on 4th down inside your own territory? How quick that decision was for you, and what was the talk on the sidelines like?
Yeah, I think I said it before, but that decision was made before the game started for us. We knew what situations within the game, when, what we liked and what we felt would be effective against them. And sometime I'll probably come in here and it won't work, right? And I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions about that, right? But at that moment, we felt really confident in what our plan was, and that decision was made well before, we got to the field on Saturday.
Your thoughts on how Andrew Boyle did kicking off once again, and given that he came from there, anything that he can offer you by way of insight into Wazoo's special teams? I know they changed special teams coaches, but anything that he might be able to offer you guys specifically for this week?
I haven't asked him yet. I probably should. I don't know if I need to wear like a long sleeve shirt or a T-shirt, but that would probably be the first question I'd ask Andrew. I think he would tell you that he wants to be more consistent, right? He had some really good kicks, and he's very capable of placing the ball in the right spot. He's just got to do it more consistently.
The TV cameras missed it, but those of us in the building, some of us didn't. How has the management of in-game defensive subs become a little bit of an art at times?
Yeah, I mean, you work. So we do move the field periods within practice, right? And anytime an offensive team is going to change their personnel, it gives you the opportunity defensively to change your personnel as well. So they have to make decisions. We get an opportunity to match the decisions that they make offensively, and we try to take advantage of that.
How are Byron and Justin progressing from the injuries?
They were both able to practice today. I wouldn't sit here and say they're both 100% yet, but I'm hopeful that both of them can sit here and help us this next weekend.
That's good news. That was Coach Lanning from last night, his weekly press conference. We'll have it for you every Tuesday on Duck Insider. And up next, a quick timeout, and then Athletic Director Tuesday. Tuesday might be the biggest show of the week. Jody Sykes is here, Chief Compliance Officer, and we're back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimate CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
Hey Duck fans, we're all about protecting our home turf here in Eugene. You should do the same for your home with Country Financial Insurance. Most home insurance doesn't account for inflation, but with Country Financial, yours can. If something happens to your home, make sure you can rebuild the same house in the same place. Call a local representative or 866-COUNTRY and get a solid defense for your home. Home insurance policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Casualty Insurance Company, or Country Preferred Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois. Property must meet age and condition requirements, which vary by state.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimate CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
The United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and the largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. The USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal agencies with free safety equipment donations and officer survival training, along with cash donations to families of law enforcement officers who perish in the line of duty, college scholarships for the children of law enforcement, a citizen awareness program, and more. For more information on the USDSA and how you can help, visit usdeputy.org.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
For your teen's music taste.
For dinners where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
We're back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. I'm Joey Mack. It's the Country Financial Studio. She's Jody Sykes, the Chief Compliance Officer here at Oregon. Jody, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all.
Yeah.
So how did it go last time you were in the Country Financial Studio? I'm putting you on the spot. I need an honest assessment of how the interview was with Jordan while I was gone.
Well, I'm easy to talk to, so it was perfect, don't you know?
Yeah.
I
well,
mean,
I actually, so I said this. I was watching, obviously.
Okay.
Probably baby in hand. That was kind of usually how it worked out.
As it should be.
Yeah, and I said to Jordan, I said, if you ever had to do an interview that you'd never done before, you're the one to do it with.
Well, everybody knows I can talk for days, so I'm an easy interview just because I can fill the space and easily, able to answer questions.
But it's because you're knowledgeable, you're well-versed, you're articulate.
Well, I appreciate all that, but I think it's just because I talk a lot. So.
But do you find that in your line of work, having the personality that you do is helpful because it's a complex subject matter? But the reason that I like having you on the show, one of many reasons, is that you seem to make it easily accessible for somebody with an education level of mine, which is not good.
We're both being very self-deprecating here today. I'm just going to say that first of all. But yes,
not just today for me. But
I do agree that one of the things I learned early on in my career, I'm not a lawyer, right? But I deal with a lot of legalese. I deal with a lot of legal jargon, and most of our coaches and certainly our student athletes are still learning. They're not lawyers either, right? And so being able to take that language and take the bylaw or the change to the bylaw and break it down in kind of normal language or simpler terms certainly seems to help. And I think that's something that I've picked up on early on. And I said, okay, so this is the legalese, and I can understand that. But here's what it actually means for you. So you take the practical application of something, right? And so that's part of what I try to relay to our coaches or to our fans or to our student athletes is just here's the practical application. Here's what you need to understand out of this, 6 paragraphs worth of stuff.
You've probably heard me say this on the air before, but I think that my job is essentially to be a professional regurgitator, right? Like I take information from coaches, sometimes complex, sometimes not complex, and I make it and I present it in a way that makes sense for fans and people that want to know about the Ducks. And I feel like you're very similar.
I think so. Obviously different material to begin with, but yes, exactly the same, right? We're taking these issues of the day or the complexities of some of the stuff we're going to talk about here today, and we try to help the coaches understand or the student athletes understand, here's what you actually need to learn from this. So there's all this stuff, there's all this extra, right? And then here's the part that we don't know yet, because even if we practically apply or even if we translate these words into things we understand, there's still these other well, what if this happens or what if that happens? And so then that's part of where we still have to be able to research and do the work to actually learn the application part of it, right?
It's a rapidly changing landscape always, and I feel like it's a moving target when you work in this realm, right?
For sure, right now it is, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely right now. And I want to talk to you about that. So for fans, right, from the fan perspective, and I'm going to group myself into this for purposes of this conversation, what's the latest that fans need to know in this ever-changing landscape?
So, the generic term for everything that we're seeing right now is coming out of the Transformation Committee, right? So everybody who's following, if you're following, you're going to see language about the Transformation Committee or, the Modernization Committee is another one that we're getting. These changes are being made. And so then within that, they're rolling out, usually on about a 3-week to every 3 to 4 week basis, some changes hoping to help the bylaws and the legislation conform with the Constitution that was passed back in late January of this year. So a lot of the things that we're seeing are pushing legislation or pushing changes to the legislation to help with that. The target of the Transformation Committee is to align with the new principles under the Constitution, right? I'm not going to go into the details of that, but if you want to read about it, just Google new NCAA Constitution and it's all there.
But you read all of it.
I did back then. I have not read it recently. I know, right? But what we're dealing with now is things like, okay, so what can we do with the transfer windows? That's one we're going to talk about here in some detail. But there's also things like meals and transportation and other things that the NCAA's bylaws are now saying, okay, institutionally, you need to make the decision.
Right.
You need to decide for your campus what this looks like. You still have to obey state laws. You still have to obey federal laws. You still have to obey, certain things along those lines. But you as an institution are in a better position to decide some of these things. Because we used to be operating, when I first started 20 plus years ago, under, we're trying to have equitable competition, fair and equitable competition. Everybody was trying to be reined in terms of, well, you can only spend this much money on this, and you can only have this many people. And with the autonomy group and things several years ago, a lot of that started to go away. And this is going, continuing down that path. Basically, if you can figure out a way to do it, they're going to loosen the reins, untighten the reins, and say, okay, you have to decide. So you might still have a budget, right? So maybe the answer is not no from compliance. Maybe the answer is no from a budget side of things,
that makes
right?
Sense.
Or maybe the answer is not no from compliance, but it's, we don't have the personnel for it or whatever it might be. And maybe another school does. Or maybe the other school chooses to spend money on X and we choose to spend the money on Y. So that's where some of these decisions are heading. It's giving us freedom to institutionally decide where and how and what are we spending our resources on.
And I feel like it's been building to that for a long time. You know, that's sort of been the trajectory since those autonomy conversations. And I remember you and I talking about what that even means.
Right.
You know, and now it's changing a lot. So you mentioned the transferring. That always makes headlines, right?
Right.
Because it's about student athletes and where they're going to play. You know, that tends to be the first thing that from a sports perspective you think about. So what do you know? Transferring making headlines.
So, I mean, you know, back in 2018, October of 2018, we've got the transfer portal, and that made huge headlines, and it basically gave the student athletes, the control, right? So they said, here, you want to go in the portal? Here's your steps, and this is what you do, and this is how you do it. And essentially that still exists, but we had gotten to a point, I think, especially on the coaching side, because I believe that this push came from the coaching side of, look, we're dealing with the transfer portal 24/7, right? They're either looking at it for transfers or talking to their own students about not transferring, or, you know, whatever it is. The transfer portal and recruiting from the transfer portal became more of a full-time position, right? In addition to recruiting your seniors in high school or juniors in high school, now you've got this whole other pool of people. So these portal windows or transfer windows that you're reading about now were created to basically give some structure, still provide the student athletes the freedom to go when and where and be eligible right away. That part hasn't changed. But if you're transferring, let's say for next year, then your windows are at the end of your sports season, and then there's a couple of other ones sprinkled in. It's a little weird for quarter schools because we start so late, and how does that play out? And we're working through all of that. But I think just like everything else, learning curve this year. But for the most part, the basic gist of it is you can still transfer. The student athlete can still transfer. It's just you have to put your name in the portal in this window, right? In this set of dates, and then there could be exceptions to that, given if there's the right circumstances, just like there is with many things, right, that we deal with.
I think it's really interesting because it seemed like it. I remember people use the description "the Wild Wild West" when it first started, and now it does feel like it's sort of. I don't know if evening out is the right phrasing. I don't know, but it feels like that's kind of the direction that things are headed.
Yeah, very possibly, right? So technically I haven't seen how these windows are going to work yet because the first one comes up at the end of this fall season for volleyball, women's soccer,
so we'll find
football.
Out.
So we're going to see how it actually plays out at the end of these fall seasons, right? And then what that looks like for the spring sports who want to go in and transfer mid-year, or winter sports that are in the middle of their season. So I feel like it's a big learning curve again. I do kind of feel like it's weighing itself back out between the student athletes and the coaches. But I don't know, just like with a lot of things, once you loosen the reins on something, it's really hard to pull that back in. And that's what we're trying to do here is pull back in some of this just wild west conversation.
That's interesting. Jody Sykes is with us. We're going to get a timeout. See the wealth of information. I told you. We got more coming up, but we're going to talk about women's golf. She's a sports liaison for women's golf. Honored at Autzen Stadium to a thunderous applause.
It was awesome.
Oh, it was so cool. We're going to talk about that coming up. Going to hear from Bo Nix as well on today's show. Stick with us. More after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I would like to consider myself a lifelong learner, especially as the husband of a teacher. Like, I hear that phrase discussed a lot amongst first and second graders and amongst my wife's colleagues. Welcome you back to Duck Insider. And I feel like I learn something every time Jody Sykes comes on the show. In fact, the conversation doesn't stop during the break. I continue to ask Jody, like, so what about this? And I really appreciate you taking the time for that, because I think that it is valuable, and I know we get into the nitty-gritty a little bit in our conversations, but I will tell you, I know there are a lot of fans that are interested to know more about it because it gives background on what we're seeing and what we're reading. So on that note, you know, NIL, name, image, likeness, that has been was that even an acronym 10 years ago?
No.
Okay. So there you go. I mean, case in point, how fast the rapid changing landscape moves. Do you feel like it's kind of settling down in NIL? I feel like I haven't seen as – okay, never mind. I stand corrected, not settling down.
No, I mean, to be fair, there probably was a bylaw that addressed name, image, and likeness, because we've always told our student athletes, look, you can't, you know, have extra logos on your clothes and all this other stuff. And, you know, we would have to send cease and desist letters. We've been sending cease and desist letters for 15 years when we see things that are being sold with our student athletes' names and images and likeness. But name, image, and likeness in the way that we talk about it now didn't exist 10 years ago. Yeah. And the reality of it is, I think it's not slowing down. So no is the answer to your original question, but I think we're kind of getting into a better rhythm. So we're understanding more who the players are in the space and who's creating, you know, who's being creative in this space and what does that look like. We're understanding a little bit more about agents and marketing firms and how that plays out, what the impact is a little bit. We're starting to see on recruiting. We're starting to see our student athletes are telling us either kind of one end of the spectrum or the other. Yes, I'm super involved and I want to do all the NIL I can, or, you know, I really just want to focus on school and my sport. I'll deal with that later. And then we have a few kind of that are in that middle pile. But, you know, kind of what we're seeing is it's one extreme or the other. We've got student athletes on one end or the other that just want to enjoy their experience, or they're going to enjoy it but also do this NIL stuff.
It's super fascinating to me as an examination of like the workforce in general, because when I was in college, I am going to work as much as possible toward getting into my career of choice, right? And so I was probably on that side of the spectrum. But then I had friends that were like, no, man, I just want to go to school, and that's it. You know, that's all I want to do. And it really is interesting. I'm glad that you said that, because you talk about a learning curve. I feel like now we're kind of on that down curve where people have started to settle into it.
I agree with that. And I think part of what we're still educating, especially the fans about, is just the differences that they're seeing. So they see something happening in a different state, and I think there's still a significant portion of our student athletes and of our fans that just don't understand, well, why can so-and-so in this state do this? Or why can so-and-so in that state do that? And some of it's state laws, and some of it's just different approaches to name, image, and likeness in general. Yeah. So I think that there's a lot of just generic learning going on about, okay, so is this a niche that we can get into, or these companies that are coming out of the woodworks that want to be in this space, what is their angle? What are they going to be able to do? And again, educating our student athletes to do the research. Is this a company that you want to be affiliated with? Is this a product that you want to promote? Do you understand that you have to pay taxes? Do you understand what it means to build your brand? So a lot of our focus on our end, on the university end, is on that educational piece, and is on that, do you get what it means to do this?
Well, and you know, speaking truthfully, that's something that I think about a lot. I mean, look around you in the studio, right? Like, you know, that's part of it. That's something that we've been doing from an overall, organization perspective
sure.
for an awful long time.
And we depend on that, right? We can't finance everything on our own. I mean, we need donors, and we need businesses and supporters and others to help our student athletes, right? So we need those funds or the support groups or the expertise even. We even have donors and businesses that have come into the space of NIL just to offer advice. And so that's how they're giving back to the university, right? Or giving back to the athletic department by just offering their expertise in a particular field, like international taxes or international law, and tax attorneys and other things like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
well,
great.
I could talk with you for another hour about this, I'm sure. And that would just be one of the hours in your day that you're talking about this. I understand. So
hey, I like it. I love giving the opportunity to folks to ask questions. So
well, that's
what we do.
You say that, and then you're going to be invited back on the show.
Bring it.
Okay.
Make it a weekly feature.
Well,
let's do it.
See, you don't volunteer for things that.
I'm totally kidding. The fans do not want that. I get it. Once every 4 to 6 weeks is plenty. Thank you.
Well, but this is why we get to also ask you about women's golf.
Absolutely.
Because Chief Compliance Officer is a large title, also sports liaison for a few different sports, but I want to focus on women's golf because what a tremendous season that was. You and I have talked about that before. However, getting the recognition in front of 50,000 plus Duck fans at Autzen Stadium, that was pretty special on Saturday.
It was extremely special. And one of the very first things that Heather Lynn said to me when we were at Eugene Country Club after they'd celebrated, after they'd officially been presented, was, I get to be on the field and get my ring. Like she, and if you'll notice, she was part of the mix, even though she graduated, she was part of the mix and was able to be down there with them.
That's
and
so
and they
cool.
had the great pictures with their rings out, and I wore mine. I should have worn it today so the fans could see it, but I wore mine, and just to be down there with them and just to have Derek's family there, and they contribute so much, and Monica and the team, just to have them get that moment.
Yeah.
And when someone for Heather, who's a huge football fan, has really adopted American football as her sport of choice, being from Taiwan originally, to have that for them, it just makes your heart happy because you just want them to have that, and they earned it, right? I mean, it's not something that was given; they earned that. And I have to say, if you haven't seen the close-up of Cynthia's ring, the one that she designed for her individual championship, there's some pictures online. You can go find it.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is incredible, and she was instrumental in the design of it and what it looks like and some of the features of it and things. Monica, I believe, helped her quite a bit. But if you haven't seen the design of Cynthia's individual ring, the team ring is great too, don't get me wrong, but Cynthia's individual ring is incredible.
It's pretty cool for me to think back to. So we had Heather in the studio, and we did an interview, and we talked about her love of American football, just getting into the environment, and it was such a cool story for her to tell about how that became such a big part of her collegiate life, and then getting that opportunity, earning that opportunity to have the recognition. That's what it's all about, right? That's the best part of your job, I'd imagine.
It is, absolutely. Anytime you can watch a student. So let's take Heather again, for example. If you put interviews from her freshman or sophomore year side by side with interviews from her senior year and the progress that she made in being able to just speak on camera, which is not an easy task, it's incredible. And when you watch them grow and you watch them succeed off the field or on the field, it doesn't really matter, right? Or you get them to see these moments of life awareness, whether that's with these rings on the field or getting a job that they really love. I ran into Drew Mathis the first game, and he had just been sworn in as a sheriff or sheriff's deputy or whatever the right title is. And just to see him succeeding outside of football and outside of and in life. I mean, adulting, right? That's so much fun to see that.
And adulting is hard.
Oh my gosh, so hard. So hard every day. So hard.
Do you know what H.J. Cohn said to me the first time he saw me after becoming a father?
Good luck.
No, it was, yeah, you've got some bags under there. Adulting is hard. Okay, can confirm. Jody, I could talk to you forever, but I really appreciate you taking the time. What else is new? What should fans know? Anything that we missed?
No, I think we're in pretty good shape right now. Let me know when we need to come back. We'll find some more topics, but
Great.
Let me know what the fans need, and we'll figure it out. But no, I think we're just plugging along.
I like that. Well, thank you for what you do.
Absolutely.
Thanks for always coming on the show whenever I ask. I don't think Jody's ever said no.
Thanks for having me.
And
I enjoy it.
Yeah, this is great. Before you know it, we're going to be talking about you traveling with women's golf again.
That is true. I'm going in next month, actually. I'm going to East Lake Club.
See?
There we go.
There you go. All right. Jody Sykes in the Country Financial Studio. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. All right, we're going to get time out. When we come back, talk a little football. Bo Nix cleaning up some Player of the Week awards, but he didn't get the Pac-12 one. More after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimate CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
Dear gas prices, Toyota is the #1 retail brand for electrified vehicles for 22 years. That says it all. Toyota hybrids. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Based on manufacturer estimate CY 2000 through 2021 sales.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
To protect his home and family from disaster, Steve used courage, wisdom, and his camera phone.
That should do it.
Way to go, Steve! By simply taking digital pictures of his family's important documents, Steve can always have them stored safely online, no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Chris Jakimick, I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. Being a veteran, it's interwoven into your DNA, is really the absence of the connection and the purpose that can really drive a lot of veterans to some negative thoughts. For those who are in a suicidal crisis, the window of time to save somebody's life is very short. Our duty is to protect ourselves and protect our families, and one way you can do that is store your weapons safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
We are back in the Country Financial Studio. Joey Mack here with you. It is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. We're going to hear from Bo Nix coming up in just a little while, but man, a lot of awards for the Duck quarterback. Received a quartet of weekly honors for his performance with the Ducks' win over BYU. A 41-20 victory, named the Rose Bowl Pac-12 Player of the Week, the Maxwell Award Player of the Week, the Reese's Senior Bowl Offensive Player of the Week, and the senior was selected to the Davey O'Brien Great 8 list as one of the nation's top 8 quarterbacks of the week. Somehow, he didn't get the Pac-12 Conference Player of the Week award. This has happened before, though. It's so funny. There are such different criteria for how people decide who's going to win a Player of the Week honor. Back-to-back 5-touchdown performances from Bo Nix. Happy to report that as a result, well, not just of that, but in general, he's going to be our guest on the Coaches Show tomorrow night. Of course, you can watch on the Oregon football social media channels, Jerry and Jorgie with Coach Lanning, myself with Bo Nix. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, the Oregon Football Coaches Show across the Oregon Sports Network as well. Today, Bo Nix, the Duck quarterback, he met with the media after practice.
His challenges on defense. What do they present? What have you seen on film?
Yeah, they're very well coached, pretty athletic, kind of quick up front. They do a good job playing their defense, play it well. Like I said, they're well coached. They know what they're doing. They communicate well. They're hardly ever in the wrong spot. They don't mess up a lot, so that's going to present a challenge for us, but we'll have a good plan, and it'll be a good game.
As Alex was just talking about, this is a place that it can be deceiving. Not a lot of fans, but it can be really raucous too.
Yeah.
The crowd, and when they're jumping up and down, just what are you envisioning this environment to be like?
Just a good hostile road game. I think it's important for us to go in there and play some of those games, kind of get uncomfortable as a team. And see where we're at, see what guys we got that'll compete. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll present a really good challenge for our team, and then it's all up to us to respond to it.
What do you feel like your growth has been week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3 now?
I think just as far as understanding the offense, understanding where we're trying to go as an offense, what coach is trying to get out of us, what plays we're trying to run, what we're trying to get good at, kind of those bread and butter plays that we want to use throughout the whole entire season. I think we've gotten really good at those. And then I've just kind of felt myself growing just kind of in the mental part of the game, and obviously completing passes and just being as efficient with the play as possible.
When you first got here, did you go over with Kenny at all some of just your pass play? Forget about offense or the scheme and those things. I'm talking about just evaluating your own self of areas that, hey, if this is an area to improve on. Did you guys go over your own film from Auburn days?
Maybe if the situation presented itself, we'd strike up those kind of conversations. But he's seen a lot and he's watched a lot of me play, so we kind of just, as things went, as we started installing things, we kind of just discussed maybe certain habits that I had or certain areas where we both know I can improve on, and obviously those were a few, and working through spring, fall, we kind of worked on getting those corrected.
And that's where I asked was because your third down splits are rather extreme in terms of a shift. How aware and conscious of that are you in terms of that was an area to improve, and that you're now one of the top 10 in the country right now? Those are obviously it'd be interesting to look at just from a third down point of view. There's a lot that goes into third downs. You know, you got the down and distance. Distance plays a huge role in third down. So maybe in the past we had a lot of third and longs, and those are just tougher to execute. And then I feel like we do a good job now getting kind of this year, especially the first 3 games, we've gotten ahead of the chains, which we've had some third and shorts. I can't remember many third and longs we've had to where we just have to throw the ball and we really get behind the sticks. So I think scheme and then situation just is a huge part of that. Do you feel like, from your own perspective, that you put too much pressure on yourself at times, whether it was those third and long, where again, it's a difficult spot regardless, but that, or when you were trailing perhaps within a score, that's when your errors happen. That's just what the stats say. But do you feel like beyond the results, did you put too much on yourself? Did you try to do too much in those spots before?
Maybe so. I think those situations are always tough because you want to make a play, but you also don't. Nobody tries to make things worse, but I think just in those situations, you do the best you can to put your team in the right situation. Sometimes it works out. Obviously, at times it worked out, and then sometimes you make some mistakes, but that's part of it when you're losing in the game and it's third and long. It's not a good situation.
Oh, after the game on Saturday, Terrence talked about you guys building chemistry in practice, staying after practice to build chemistry. How often do you stay after practice to build chemistry with Terrence?
Well, it kind of depends just on some of the schemes, some of the things that we're doing. If there's a route that we didn't get some good reps in at practice, we may do some extra stuff there. If there's other things that we just want to work on, we do that. But a lot of our reps come during the practice and during our reps with the team.
Well, you're going to be facing a team that's kind of chip on its shoulder. I think they think they should do great this week. They're looking to make a statement. Is there a way for you guys to prepare for that type of emotion from implement of the team?
That's a good question. I think we're trying to prepare, focusing on ourselves, because I think a lot of us, we feel like we got a lot more to prove, and so that's where we're starting at. We're worrying about ourselves. It's Oregon versus Oregon every day at practice. It was Bloody Tuesday today, so we got out there and we're very physical. We wanted to just focus on ourselves, focusing on our mistakes that we can correct from this weekend, and then continue to get better. So I think every team we play is going to want a piece of Oregon, and that's just part of it. But I think that it's good competition because we also want just our schedule. So that's going to be good, and it's exciting when 2 teams want to play each other because that means it's going to be a good game.
Bo Nix, really great stuff after practice today. The Duck quarterback, multiple National Player of the Week honors, back-to-back 5-touchdown performances. Keep it going up at Martin Stadium. Brought to you by the Willamette Valley Cancer Institute and Research Center. Fight like a duck with exceptional cancer care close to home. When we come back, volleyball cleaning up the Pac-12 honors as well. Softball's got a fall schedule, and some news and notes on Oregon baseball next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union, onpointcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Opportunity.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I made an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Learn more at SmokeyBear.com.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
It's time for today's STEM tip. Okay, you know recycling is important. No one wants plastic in the ocean. Here's a cool way to repurpose a plastic bottle. Build an awesome terrarium. Cut a large plastic bottle in half and fill the base with sand, pebbles, potting soil, and your favorite plant. I chose an African violet. Put the top of the bottle over your base and place it in the sun. Your plant will grow sealed in its own ecosystem. Fun, right? Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Back inside the Country Financial Studio, it's Duck Insider presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Tomorrow, Pac-12 play begins for Oregon volleyball as well. Oregon soccer starting Pac-12 play. Oregon football starting Pac-12 play. Of course, Washington State, the kickoff at Martin Stadium. 1 o'clock on Fox, 11 a.m. pregame show here on the Oregon Sports Network. Volleyball, though, cleaning up the Pac-12 honors. Some great individual efforts. Team went 2-0 to finish up the non-conference season. Monday's announcement, Pac-12 Offensive Player and Freshman of the Week honors for the Ducks. Hannah Pukis, the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week, and outside hitter Mimi Collier, the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week. For Collier, that's 3 Freshman of the Week honors in 4 months, or in 4 weeks, I should say. So in 1 month, 3 weeks, she's the Freshman of the Week. Feel like she's got a good chance to be the Freshman of the Year. Just really a hot take there. Really a hot take. Pukis averaged 12 assists per set over the weekend. She directed the Oregon offense to a .407 hitting percentage over the weekend. We're going to talk with Matt Ulmer, the Oregon volleyball head coach, about that on the show tomorrow. Oregon softball announcing their fall schedule. Oregon will open fall ball with a doubleheader against Corbin October 9th at 11 a.m. The next week, the Ducks will play 2 games on October 15th, College of the Siskiyous and Oregon Tech. Oregon's only weeknight contest in the fall will come October 18th, a Tuesday, against Western Oregon. The full schedule is available on GoDucks.com October 9th, October 15th, October 18th, October 23rd. And all of these events, by the way, free at Jane Sanders Stadium. You can come in, watch a little bit of softball. Speaking of that, if you missed it at the start of the show, Oregon baseball is going to be releasing their full fall scrimmage schedule, including one on a football Saturday. When the Ducks play Stanford at 8, go to baseball right beforehand. Good show. See you tomorrow, everybody.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project